According to information from the Telegram page Special Kherson Cat, on December 21, 2023, the Russian army continues to use remote-controlled suicide car bombs to attack fortified firing points in Ukraine, similar to the suicide car bombs of IS militants in the Middle East, but different in that there is no driver. The vehicle used to make the suicide car bomb is the multi-purpose armored personnel carrier MTLB developed by the Soviet Union, which was modified by the Russian army into a remotely operated vehicle thanks to the VT-40 FPV UAV. The UAV is mounted on the front of the MTLB and provides camera support to drive to the target. The people who turned the MTLBs into suicide cars are Russian soldiers from the Sudoplatov detachment, describing it as a self-propelled land-based torpedo, SST, filled with explosives. In connection with previous MTLB suicide attacks, this vehicle was loaded with at least 2 tons of explosives, which could be bombs, artillery shells and explosives, turning it into a giant, extremely powerful bomb. According to Russian sources, this MTLB suicide car bomb was used in an unknown area of the Ukrainian battlefield, as part of a doomsday plan, to destroy a fortified position of the Ukrainian army. A number of Russian combat units are increasingly using MTLB vehicles as a platform for creating suicide weapons. The high mobility, cross-country ability, and the ability to carry a large amount of explosives of this multi-purpose armored vehicle make it a particularly dangerous weapon. The combination of the VT-40 FPV UAV and the MTLB armored vehicle will further enhance combat capabilities, simplify automatic movement to the target and increase the speed of movement. If the vehicle fails to reach its intended destination, the explosion could still cause damage to Ukrainian troops. The Russian army's use of suicide car bombs has caused many conflicting opinions on the battlefield. It can be said that the invention of this suicide car bomb was carried out by IS militants in the Middle East, when using cars loaded with explosives as weapons to open doors, because they do not have firepower such as artillery, tanks or air force. But for the Russian army, an army considered to be the second strongest in the world, why must they use suicide car bombs like those of the rebels in the Middle East? Is it because the Russian army lacks firepower, or for what reason must they use such extreme firepower? Previously, some Russian units attempted to penetrate Ukraine's defense system by driving suicide vehicles loaded with explosives such as MTLB armored vehicles straight into Ukraine's fortified defensive positions. First, the driver of the armored vehicle determines the direction of travel, then uses a wooden stick to hold the accelerator to maintain the vehicle's speed. When approaching the target, the driver jumps out of the vehicle and lets the vehicle continue to move towards the target. However, these special MTLBs often encounter anti-tank mines and are detonated before reaching their destination. Despite this, Russian soldiers are willing to apply extreme measures, using armored vehicles carrying large amounts of explosives, which can be block explosives or artillery shells. But according to analysts, the use of these tactics in the current conflict reflects a change in tactics by the Russian army, possibly due to a reported shortage of combat vehicles. Cases of the use of Stalin-era BTR-50 armored personnel carriers, Museum BTR-90 prototypes and Soviet-era T-80 tanks, as well as the recovery of nearly half of Soviet-era tanks from military storage facilities in eastern Siberia, highlight this trend. But some analysts believe that the idea of transforming motor vehicles into remote-controlled bomb trucks by the Russian army originated on the battlefield in Syria. Therefore, real combat experience is very important for any army of a large country.